Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the WDET Studios, Detroit's NPR station, sponsored by the Ford Foundation and a content partner to BridgeDetroit.com. I'm trying to do my NPR voice now that we're like in the WDET Studios. I mean, we're fancy. So good. I'm Orlando Bailey, and my co-host Anika Goss is taking some much-needed time off. Be sure to send some prayers and good vibes her way in the loss of her mom. We want to thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the east side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Also, there is a listener survey, yes, in the description of this podcast that we are asking you, our listeners, to take. First off, I want to thank everyone who's already taken the time to fill it out. We're hoping to get more responses, so please click the link in the podcast description to complete our listener survey. We appreciate you. Today, we are happy to welcome for the first time ever, Jeanette Pierce to the show. Jeanette is the founder. I know, we need sound effects. She is the founder of the Detroit Experience Factory, which is sunsetting while the new City Institute will take its place. We'll get all the details and more. But first, Jeanette Pierce, welcome to Authentically Detroit.
Thank you so much, Orlando. Thanks for having me. I can't believe this is the first time it's not on the east side, in our old neighborhood. But I'm excited to be here, and I love WDET. So collaboration is always an awesome thing.
Yeah, we feel so fancy in the studios. Also joining us is an old Authentically Detroit pro, Anika Goss of Detroit Future City. DFC recently released a report entitled Buying In, Opportunities for Increasing Homeownership in Detroit Through Mortgage Lending. We're going to talk about that. And she's a new board member for, some place called the Federal Reserve. Anika, welcome back to Authentically Detroit.
Thank you for having me, Orlando. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have both of you here. I'm super privileged. You two are two of my favorite Detroiters, and I am just excited that I get to talk to y'all both at the same time. So we're going to make it work. But before we get started into like the hard stuff and the work, I want to do a check-in because I think the world is trying to comport normativity. Like we're back to normal and everything is back open and everything is normal. But I don't think we are... as humans, I don't think we're feeling that all the way. So I want to check in. How y'all doing? Jeanette, how are you? How you feeling?
Well, I'm just getting back from a little family trip, vacation, if you will. So I'm feeling a little bit calmer than I was trying to get out the door. It's always so hard trying to go on vacation. You've got a million things to do. And the 3-year-olds triplets, for those that aren't familiar.
Has triplets.
I have 3-year-old triplets.
Catch them in Lafayette Park in the park.
Yeah. So it was actually, I think, Rachel Perchetz who told me that you don't have vacations anymore. You have family trips. Like, it's not like you're relaxing by, drinking you are juggling and running and coordinating. But we made sure that we had some time, a little downtime. We got a lot done, but gave us some time to relax. So right now, I'm actually pretty chill, but I totally feel you. It's like the switch flipped, and everyone's trying to make up for the last 2 years in like the next 2 months, and it is just on, and it's a little overwhelming.
It is. Anika, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm an unwilling contributor back to society. I'm really good at being at home and working from home, whether that home is here in Detroit.
You like working from home?
Heck yeah. Whether it's here in Detroit or in I love the South.
I know.
Especially in the winter.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing a lot of that. And so I'm like, I don't want to go back in the office.
Kicking and screaming?
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
So has DFC opened this?
Nope.
So your offices are still closed?
We are still closed. I mean, some of it, we had great space, but it's not It's just not COVID safe.
Yeah.
And we don't
It
want
was an
to
open
be in
space.
there and encourage. A big part of who we were being in that space was inviting guests in.
Yeah.
And we can't do that at all. I mean, it's one thing to be open. It's another thing to like open to everybody. And so no one feels safe doing that. So
What's the plan?
we're not sure yet. We're still looking for space.
Okay.
There's a lot of us now. DFC has grown, I mean, exponentially.
I know.
Yeah,
I've been
there's a
seeing
lot of
some of the
us.
announcements.
There's a lot of us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I also hear like congratulations are in order because I don't know how this happened, but Anika Goss was recent. It feels recent, but it's not as recent. You are a board member to the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago?
The Detroit branch.
The Detroit
Yes.
branch. How does something like that happen?
I have no idea.
Give us the story. Like, how were you
No,
asked
I'm not
and
even
approached?
good at math. I'm like, have they seen my checking account? What? So,
goodness.
yeah. So I was nominated by Rip Rapson at the Kresge
Okay.
Foundation. He was a previous board member, and they all voted yes. So then they just extend an invitation. I mean, I'm saying it's that casual, but this has been a process that started in like September or October. That it's a full vetting process.
I'm
and,
sure. Just to get in the building, it's like you need to have a full vetting process.
Yeah, I just got my badge today, so I feel very important.
You are important.
And, and they try to be all friendly, with their like major artillery. Like the guards have like serious weapons, but they're like, "Hey,
Oh
Miss
my
Goss,
gosh.
welcome to the Fed." I'm like,
Welcome
okay.
to, they call it the Fed. I just want to say boss moves. I think that it is, I don't know if I've met anyone who was a board, except Rip, and I didn't know Rip was a board member of the Federal Reserve Bank. I think that's amazing, Anika, and can't wait for you to share what you're learning. and
Thank
what y'all
you.
talking
What you're
about.
sharing with them, which they
Yeah,
need
and
to
what-
know
yeah.
some stuff probably that you can share from on the ground in the city. Which,
We talk a lot about Black people now that I'm at the table. And it's great, and they're open to it. And Rick Mattoon is the president there, and his team are really excited about thinking differently about what a Federal Reserve can be in a community and the impact that it can have in Detroit. And so I'm excited. I'm honored. Like, what an honor and privilege, right? To serve in this way.
well deserved, though.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank
It
you.
is. I mean,
Thank
Makes
you.
us feel better about, like, oh, maybe they're going to do some stuff that we might, that's going to be good. I mean, I don't know what they were doing before, really,
Yeah.
but now we're going to,
hosting events. Cause
Right,
that's
it's an event. Yes, a great event space.
and maybe setting monetary policy.
Okay.
Inflation and interest rates. And
Yeah, can we talk to them about why flights are so high right now? I'm ready to go. And I'm like, sheesh, I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So Donna is out, and I've been asking our guests in her absence to just, you guys got a message for us. She lost her mom. She misses being here. I know she wants to be here, but I'm like, take your time, take a break. I know both of you are pretty good friends with Donna Givens-Davison. Any words for Donna?
I am thinking about her, praying on her. I'm close to my own mom.
Yeah.
And when you have a mom that is the sun in your family that everybody revolves around, I know the loss has to be devastating.
Yeah.
And so I really hope that she's able to take the time to connect with her sisters and the rest of her family and, share all that love. So we miss her.
We miss you, Donna.
Absolutely. I mean, our hearts go out to you, and similarly, it's hard to imagine when you haven't lost your mother yet. And but all of her posts, your post, if she's listening, I guess, right? Like the impact that her mom had on not just the life of her family, which you can tell is just immense, and the love is so there, but on the city, on all the people that met her. I married into a Greek family, and they have this, saying that says, "May her memory be eternal."
Yeah.
And I think, you can absolutely see from all the posts that Donna's put out there that absolutely her memory will be eternal because of all the people she touched and that she loved.
I was able to attend the memorial, and our friend Kim Trent read her bio, and Miss McIntyre was a woman who joined the United States military in the 1950s. Can you imagine being a black woman in the United States military serving honorably in the 1950s?
Crazy.
What was that? So love, wishes, prayers, all of the good things for you, Donna. So listen, I'm excited to talk to both of y'all because both of y'all are doing some pretty amazing work. DFC just released a report. I cower over these reports every single time, like it's hovering because they're always so good. And City Institute is launching and Detroit Experience Factory is sunsetting. So Jeanette, let's talk about that, right? DXF is sunsetting, right? Started in 2006. 2006.
The beginning pieces of it. We had a different name back then. For those that have been around a while, it was Inside Detroit, because we just were like, why don't we call it that? Okay. We launched in January of 2006 to help connect locals and visitors to Detroit's people, places, and projects. You know, as a lifelong Detroiter, I was like, I know Detroit. I grew up on the east side, and my dad was involved and worked actually with nonprofits all around the city, and we were Detroiters. And then I moved downtown in 2003 and was like, what's that building? What's this business? What's that? And started walking places, and then I was like, West Side. Fankel? Like, how do you like?
Because
what?
we as Eastsiders never journey past.
It was like this whole other world over there, right? And so I just was like, wait, I don't know Detroit like I thought I did. What else can I learn? And I got obsessed with just learning and meeting people, talking to the bartender, who turns out to be third generation owner, and the stories and the history. And then I want to tell people about it. When I learn something, I go, hey, did you know that this was there or that was there? A lot of small businesses. We were really about supporting small businesses before social media, before Eater, and the really, mobile phones with websites on it.
2005.
Yeah, like 5, 6, 7, 8. You couldn't just pull stuff up on your phone, and
legit.
And so if it was a small business without a big marketing budget, then how did you find out about them? So, we did the checklist of the 100 bars and restaurants downtown when we launched. People, Detroiters. This is like Detroiters were like, there's nothing downtown. And I was like, listen, here's 100 places, right? And no, I've been everywhere. Here's the list. Oh, maybe I haven't. Then we expanded that to the 800 places in the whole city, not counting fast food and all of that. So we've taken 150,000 people around the city on every corner.
I was one of those people.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm glad, and the thing is that people hear tour and they think tourist or sightseeing or double-decker buses. That's never been our focus. We've always focused on locals. Locals can go back to that small business, be a more educated voter, understand the challenges as well as the assets of the city. And it really has an economic impact and an impact on the daily lives of people. People decide to stay here, decide to move here, take a job. We're part of job interview processes for some companies. But, and that's all been really great. But we kind of were everything to everybody. And one of the things that the, pandemic allowed us all to do is to think through things and decide what really matters and where the focus should be. And for us, that is on deeper conversations and also expanding to other cities. Because before COVID, people were asking me, Chicago, Vegas, Portland, all invited me to help them create programs. And I'm like, wait, Chicago? I mean, everyone knows that Chicago's got tours and they're amazing and award-winning tours, but they're all downtown tours. There's not like we tell the story, we help people tell the story of their place, meet the person, hear, what is this business owner? What are their challenges? What would they want to see happen? To really get an understanding and feel connected to a place. And different neighborhoods around Chicago or other cities really can use that. And so with COVID, we also decided to let's focus on some local cities. So we're launching in Pontiac. Berkeley was kind of random, but we had somebody there that was like, hey, and I'm like, I don't know anything about Berkeley. I don't know if I've even been there. And I walked around this guy and I was like, this is cool. Talking to the small business owners going in. Dearborn, we're working on launching this summer too. There's a million stories, right? Both in the city, but also outside it. So City Institute is about that, taking it to the next level, what we did at Detroit Experience Factory, and that deeper understanding plus sharing lessons learned is a big part of it.
You guys used the term experiential storytelling. First of all, I love that term. Tell our listeners what that means.
Well, storytelling, everybody uses storytelling nowadays. And I like whether it's a PR firm or a advertising firm obviously there's lots of stories to be told, but we are literally out there telling stories. And by experiential, that obviously means we're going there. Like, for example, it's great to listen to something on WDET or read something in Bridge Detroit. But then what if you read about it, listened to it, but then going there, meeting that person, hearing their story? Like, we have this learning journey coming up on April 21st to kind of launch a lot of this. But we're going to the East Side. We're going to East Warren. We're going to talk to, we're going to Zab Cultural Collective. We're going to go, to hear the story about like how she got the building, but then there were some people that didn't want her to be in the building, and so she backed off for a few years, but then she came back, and now she has this community space, and she's doing art again. Denise Moore, it's not like a million stories like that in the city, and hearing it from the people in Detroit is that's experiential, is experiencing it. It also helps break down barriers, because you can read about it, but then when you go there, now you feel like more comfortable. You can go back, you made that connection, maybe it's going to do an event there, or maybe you're going to come back to one of the events she has. It's really the most powerful form of storytelling, I really believe.
Well, one of my favorite people in the world is Jason Reynolds. He's the national ambassador for youth literature here in the United States, and he says that it is the record of a thing, it is the writing down or the recording of a thing that is crystallized, and then it proliferates out into the world to influence a culture. And Anika, the reports that Detroit Future City puts out, it also tells a story. It gives us a narrative about our city, our challenges, and our possible solutions, like what's possible, in written form in a really, really dynamic way. Is that what you set out to do when you took over?
In a sense, right, we did feel like part of how we would keep the framework fresh and relevant, and all of those people, good or bad, angry and excited, that participated in the original Detroit Strategic Framework process, they were due what was going to happen to Detroit over the 50 years. And they are certainly owed an organization that should be responsible for the 50-year future of Detroit. What is our economic future going to look like? And so I feel like during the period of time, I am not going to be here for 50 years. I don't even know if I'm going to be here for another 5 years, 10 years. You just never know. But during the time that I am here, I wanted to be able to establish the foundation for what this organization could look like. And part of that is establishing a real think tank, a real recognized evidence-based think tank. And in order to do that in Detroit, and I believe what Detroit wants and what we should be accountable for Detroiters is to one, we never want to dumb down anything, right? We're not talking
I hate
down
that language.
We never want to talk down to anybody or condescend, but we do want to talk straight about what these numbers mean, and I want everybody to be able to repeat it. My biggest compliment is if I hear somebody on the street that is repeating something that they heard or said that comes out of one of the Detroit Future City. I've heard people, and my favorite is when they are repeating about the middle class in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, only 25% of Detroiters are middle class. I've overheard that. And it's like the best compliment ever, right? Because that means that we made it so straightforward that everybody can repeat it. And that's sort of the point. And so, with our new report, we want, in doing that, and if we're going to talk about how Detroit grows economically, then we need to understand how capital flows. And I feel like that is often what's left out of the conversation about growth. Like we talk about Detroit is growing and it's coming back and people are moving in. But we need to also understand what it means when the system invests in a city.
Yeah.
And what that investment looks like. And it starts with mortgage origination for any city across the country. So it's great that people are buying homes with cash, but until
Is it? I mean,
yeah, you could buy your home with cash and fix it up, and then there's a home. Yeah. But what really is setting value and what increases value in a community is the mortgage origination.
Those comps, yeah.
Exactly. And so being able to pull that home mortgage disclosure act. So what we did in the report, we described and defined what the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act was so that people understood there is one public entity that's keeping all of the data for every single company that does lending in the United States, and it's available. And two, we did a really easy to follow diagram of the lending process. So if your process doesn't look like this process, then there's a problem.
Something is off.
Yeah, and so that's how we started it. And then we started just the real easy data. How many mortgages are in Detroit? How many mortgages should there be in Detroit? Who's getting mortgages? Where are the mortgages going, right? And, the only good news that came out of that story was that Black Detroiters are applying for mortgages more than they have in the past 20 years. That's the end of the good news.
We're going to get into it, but Jeanette, you talk. Speaking of mortgages and the disparity that exists, within our city, it's a long-standing disparity. Keonga Taylor talks about predatory exclusion and then predatory inclusion. City Institute, upon its launch, and even throughout the last couple of years in soft launch, has led this racial segregation and redlining tour in the city. Talk a little bit about that.
We read so much of what, the data, and I love those reports too. Like, I'm a data nerd. I kind of absorb it and then help people, okay, let me explain. Let me sum this up for people, and then direct people to these resources. That's a big part of it, But a big part of it is also putting context. How did we get here, right? You don't just start now, right? You start with the redlining that happened, right? And so if we even look at, and so we have this, to your point, to your question, I guess, the Redlining, Racism, and Segregation Tour presentation, because we do it virtually. We started doing it virtually during COVID, and it actually lends itself to that a little bit better than in person. We can do in person and everything, and it's amazing. But with virtual, we go on the map, and we can show graphs, and we can show historic photos and the actual redlining map from the HOLC. And then we can go and show on the map and go to the Ocean Sweet House on the east side and then zoom over to the Burwood Wall and then back to Black Bottom, then to 6th to 12th in Claremont and go use the map and do the tour, but you're also using this historical information. And we offer that every month. We've been offering every month since June of 2020. When, the George Floyd's murder, and a lot of people, mostly white, were like, racism? It was like, I knew it was a thing, but I didn't realize it was that bad. And then I'm like, okay, well, what can we do? Because it's something we've always talked about as part of our tour, because we believe you can't understand today, oh, there's a great new restaurant. This building used to be empty. That starts today, but why was it empty? And you can't understand that without understanding the past and how we got here. And so we put this presentation tour together, and it's been really well received because,
that's awesome.
And we can link to it, right? We then send this link, like, go to here. You want to know more about this? Talk to Jamon Jordan. You want to know more about this? Go see this report. When Keith Williams asked us to do it for the Michigan Democratic Black Caucus, I was like, you guys want me to do it for you? And he's like, no, this is so important. The way that you connect the dots between the past and the present and your storytelling skills really are helping us build the case for reparations, right? And which is really, what it's all about is how the government on the federal and local level inhibited Black people and people of color from even buying a home until
And
1968.
Anika talked about the system imperative that needs to take.
One of the things I've always said on my tours is that be really clear. Black people couldn't get a home loan in the United States of America until the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. And that didn't just turn on a switch either, right?
Yeah.
Like then you had to do all these other follow-up things. First Independence opened in 71. But to this little data fact that goes absolutely to what you're talking about, Anika, is that 74% of homes that were deemed redlined in neighborhoods that were redlined are still low income today. And helping people, because we're not taught it. We're not taught about these things, as we all know that there's very little information. And even, obviously some people do and are great at teaching these things, but the vast majority of our public education or even private did not delve into, it's FDR and mortgages as a thing was a pretty cool concept, right? Before that, you couldn't even no one could buy a house. There was no such thing as a mortgage. You could take a loan out for the cost of your house and you have to pay it back in 5 years, right? Or pay cash or something.
Yeah, Jeanette, I'm so glad you said that. Well, a couple reasons. One, in the report, what we've been doing now on social media is featuring so all of the profiles, the pictures. I
saw the Harrisons today.
Yeah, so we've been trying to profile them on social media. But there's another family that was an intergenerational family, and there's a grandma. So there's a woman who's older, and she's there with her daughter and granddaughter. Her granddaughter is an adult. She bought that home 60 years ago. 60 years ago, however she got that home, it was not through a mortgage. And the fact that she's being profiled in a report about mortgage origination, she still lives in this great big house in Boston Edison. I was really moved by that. And I feel like that was the whole point of that, was that there are families throughout the whole city where this is their story, right?
One of our guides, Mike Daniels, 70-year-old native Detroiter, and he talks about his family buying their house on land contract, and at 15 years old, his job was to take the money down to downtown to the bank, and pay the monthly land contract. And if one payment's missed, right?
They're out on the street.
So many, one of the biggest examples I think that hits home is that we kind of paint the picture for is a traditional white family, guy comes back from World War II and in the GI Bill gets to buy a house with 0% interest, but only in a homogenous, quote unquote, neighborhood, because that's what the whole, Federal Loan Corporation decided, which is then in the suburbs likely at this time. And so he buys this house and then gets equity in it, and then he can take money from that and open a business or send his kids to college or pay off debt. And then when he dies and his kids get to buy that, split the $50,000 or $100,000, then they get to put a down payment on a home, send their kid to college. All of that, that's that wealth building, right? That was not able for so many people for so long. And then the example here in Detroit, because you can't have a tour without talking about Motown, right?
Yeah.
Wait. Where does Motown? Where'd she just go with that? Well, the beginning of the spiel, right, is that Barry Gordy borrowed $800 from his parents to buy this house, turns a garage into a recording studio. The rest is history. Let's go back to that. His parents were amazing forethought, had such foresight. He had so many siblings. They all put into this. Literally, it was a family bank that he had to go and do a pitch, and he had to pay it back with interest and all this. And if his parents hadn't been that special unicorn, really, right, he might not have been able to buy that house. And the city, the state, the world might have missed out on Motown.
I'm telling you,
because of racist federal policies.
My grandfather, pastor on the east side, New Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church, right on Mack and French Road, been there for years. Started a credit union. The church started in 1956.
Churches used to do a lot of that.
They started a credit union. But I'll say this: one of the things that's striking to me, you kind of said it, and Anika, you said it in the boardroom at the Federal Reserve, is that these conversations are now happening intra communities, right? White folks are now afforded the opportunity to be in spaces to have these conversations, because I believe that we've not been fortunate enough, black folks and white folks, to be able to come together and have these conversations. And for a long, long time, we've both missed out. Both communities have missed out on being able to
white people
talk
didn't want to know.
And but now this conversation is happening, and white folks are like, oh, now all of a sudden at the Federal Reserve, they want to have like this conversation. What is it? Like, is the tide changing? Or
I think, I don't know. I think there's a couple of things. One, I don't know that everybody is wanting to talk about it.
Yes.
Right.
I feel like everybody wanted to talk about it in 2020 because that was the racial awakening. And if you didn't talk about it, then you were terrible. But I do think now people are like, really? Enough already. I think I get more of that than I do. I get more of the, I'm sick of it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And that being rebuffed about it a little bit. Not that it stops me from talking, but then I do people really being open and embraced. On the other side of that, I feel like people who have wanted to but weren't sure how to articulate it, right? That people are afraid. They're afraid of the conversation. They're afraid of being accused of being racist if they have stupid questions. They're afraid of their stupid questions, right? There are things they don't understand. They're afraid of having an opinion. And I feel like there is room now where there wasn't in 2019 about having an opinion. Even if your opinion is terrible and wrong, we can have a conversation about your wrong and terrible opinion.
Yeah.
And that table, I feel, is new. And the people who are wanting to be educated, wanting to be at the table, they're learning every day. Yeah. I sit at more race and equity tables. You just can't even. I might spend my entire day just going to those
race
meetings.
And equity, yeah.
But someone actually said, someone who's a bank president said at this particular table, said, if we are actually going to create an honest or have this honest conversation about race and equity, I don't feel comfortable as a bank, someone who's with a bank, setting the priorities for what this should look like. Like, we have to have a community conversation because we're culpable in what's happened over time. Maybe not me personally,
but the culpability
certainly
of the institutions.
Absolutely. Yes. And that has really
That's amazing.
Stuck with me, right? Like, the oppressors can't decide what the priorities should be.
I hope y'all hear that. Philanthropy, you can't decide. Banks, you can't decide. The list goes on, right? Anika, I want to drill down deeper into something that was in the report since we're on this, right? The report tracks some data, I think, from 2012 all the way up until 2020. And it says, in recent years, more home loans in Detroit have been approved for African Americans due in part to increased lending across a larger area and improving housing market. During that time, high-income white borrowers represented about 60% of all home loans in Detroit. Moderate-income African Americans secured about 1/3. But in 2020 specifically, upper-income African American applicants were denied more often than moderate-income white applicants, 23% to 20% respectively.
Yeah.
What in the world is happening in this city?
Across income levels, we're seeing denials. Denials are higher for African Americans. So some of that is what Jeanette was talking about. If you go back to the early days of the home lending, the federal home lending program, where they were very clear in segregationist policies about where people could and could not live, very, very upfront. Black people cannot live here. They cannot mix in races where there's majority white people. And where it's bad for lending and it's bad for community. That was policy, right? Documented policy. When during the Fair Housing Act, it's not like they said, we're throwing the whole policy away and starting over. No, they just revised it. right? So if you just revise it, it's based, the foundational
foundation,
base
yes.
is still
Still there.
on that bad policy. And so I think, one of the things I'm actually really excited about that we'll see this summer is I brought this to the attention of the Federal Reserve Bank here in Detroit, of the branch here in Detroit, and they were really interested in doing something about it. Because what they had said was, it could be what you're saying. It could also be that after the housing crisis, there were so, Frank Dodd and other federal policies that were really designed to protect low-income people, in particular African-American people, from predatory lending, created an overcorrection in the lending process generally, right? So then it became, if your credit is this, if your capital is that, then you're going to be denied because we have to follow these very tight federal policies for mortgage lending now. So I think that's one piece of it. And they want to work together this summer to figure out ways to evaluate policy and retrain and figure out, how can we loosen this up so that we can make sure we get more borrowers. I think the other thing that's happened or why this is happening is that, for the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, you have to be an FDIC financial institution for them to really test that, but not necessarily a regulated bank. So that's who's on the list. So the only people who are not on the list are nonprofits, credit unions. They're not on the HMDA list, right? Because they're regulated by a different set of standards. So what we know is that the average bank doesn't like to do small loans. And so when you're reading the report, what we should really be paying attention to, it's two things and how it ends up becoming across the board. One is that the average loan for African Americans was under $100,000. Most financial institutions don't want to do a loan for under $100,000.
That's true.
And white borrowers are qualifying for an average of $200,000. And we already know that, and it's evidence-based, that African American homes are valued less.
Thank you, Dr. Andre Perry.
Yes, they're appraising for less. And so we're seeing the result of that. And so, in fact, white households in Detroit were actually only borrowing in a few places, much fewer, across the city, as opposed to African Americans that were buying everywhere, right? They're buying all over the east side, all over the west side, in southwest Detroit, everywhere. And white households really only stuck to a few different neighborhoods in the city.
So my follow-up to that is, what are we doing, or how are you guys thinking about credit scores?
Yeah.
I think the report lifts up that, traditional lending institutions don't even want to lend to folks with a credit score under 620, and Detroiters are at what?
530 or something like that on average.
Yeah.
And it's harder, too, because credit is so private.
Yeah.
So you're not really getting an accurate
It's
number.
also very new. I didn't realize how new this credit system was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not great,
Yeah.
right? Like even FICO and the federal government, the OCC, they even know, there's a lot of problems with the system, and we can't figure out how to get to it.
I never understood the whole, if you don't have a credit card, then which means you don't have debt, probably, that you don't have good credit. You need to get a credit card to get good credit. What? And for people, especially in the, who use cash a lot, I mean, there's so many levels, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. That's just you're going to fix it all on the Fed board, right?
Cash rich, credit poor.
Right. It's a problem. I think, Fannie Mae and HUD are really looking at new policies around that will help a lot. You know, they're wanting to include rent on the credit score. Rent is not included. Eliminating medical debt, especially after a pandemic.
Are paying probably way more in rent.
That's right.
Especially in the city of Detroit.
And for years. Right? Like there are renters in Detroit. There are renters for 15, 20 years who've never owned. So, and none of that is on their credit score.
Jeanette, I want to ask you about this quest to go deeper. With City Institute, because there's so much to learn. And when I hear the word institute, I hear a place of learning, right? What do you want to teach people? What kind of people are you hiring? When is the official launch date? Tell us about it. Is Anika invited to teach?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole point, is this exact stuff, right? I mean, and I'm not an expert on everything or, most things, but I know a good chunk about a lot of stuff and can help like sum it up or connect the dots, right? And then go and talk to Anika, right? So that's where this learning journey concept comes from. And before we got started, we were talking about how Baltimore leadership's coming to Detroit. Portland leadership had come a few years ago and kind of got me thinking. Lots of cities do these study trips with leadership.
Philly
right?
would be here in the fall.
Yeah, and so when Portland came, they're like, we want 3 days. And I was like, well, I don't do the museum stuff. I don't know. They're like, no, we want like all the stuff. And I was like, oh my God. Because normally I was trying to get people like, I have 2 hours or 3 hours. And so what you can do if you have more time and you go deeper? And that's that learning journey concept. So we have the full day on April 21st that anybody can join. But the idea is to go have speakers. So on that one, for example, we're going to the East Side, like I said, talking to Joe Rashid, talking to some business owners over there. We're going to have Regina Ann Campbell talk about equity and entrepreneurship over lunch. We're going to go to the Avenue of Fashion, talk to Kim Tandy and Lolita. We're going to go to Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, which Southwest gets left out of the conversation a lot of times, right? And there's so many stories, and hear from each of those teachers is a great, great kind of way to look at it, right? We're working with
Institute has teachers.
Yeah, I'm guest guide. I was trying to say like a visiting professor kind of concept, but we're doing a tour of art in Southwest led by the artist, right? I mean, this is like us. We can connect the dots between the different topics and put it in context, right? Like put it in that historic context, put it in layman's terms sometimes if folks need that. But I just help people understand it more, right? And I want to just really quick go. Oh, and in terms of the launch, we're full. We're full steam ahead, right? So we have public events people can join, but we mostly do private group stuff. So if somebody has an organization that wants that redlining racism and segregation tour, or wants around entrepreneurship, or the thing is about, you have to talk about the challenges, but you also have to talk about the wins, both big and small. Because for a long time in Detroit, and still some people, if you say like, oh, well, Good Cakes and Bakes is a great, what about the schools? And you're like, okay, yes, obviously, we have challenges, but this is important, that challenges and assets, good and bad, are not mutually exclusive. They exist simultaneously, and they do in every city. So Detroiters get historically like, oh, us, we have these, and I'm not saying we do not have the challenges and that they aren't frequently more extreme, but in that we also have more opportunity to flip it on its head and do something about it than a lot of other cities where it isn't talked about most of the time, because it is, we had Fort Wayne, Indiana come and do, their leadership, and they were like blown away by the things that we had and entrepreneurship and, talking with great people around the city. And then, but everyone we talked to was like, but there's more we can do, but there's more that we can do. Everything's still, pretty bad because there's so many challenges. And their question was like, do you ever celebrate your wins?
Right.
They're like, you guys are like leaps and bounds on a lot of these conversations than we are, right? Than a lot of places are. And I think that's important to recognize. I just wanted to really quick on the like white people paying attention thing. We always snuck it in, right? You'd have a tour about whatever, and then we'd be like, oh well, yeah, this cool new bar. Here's the reason. Oh, and did you know about the Burwood Wall? And like segregation was real, and it was federal. Anyway, so we always put it in, and most people were like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't know, and it helped plant that seed. But what we did see more in the last 2 years was saying, okay, I know I don't know. how can I find out about it? And that's where, so we had GM, contact us. We did like a group of 30, and then they were like, oh my God, everyone. And then we do a group of 300, 1,800 GM execs. They were like, we want all level 8 and above to know about this, to know this history. And that is a game changer, right? Like, because now then when they look at, then they go, what can we do? What's next, right? Whether it's, zoning today being a bit like modern day redlining, right? Like if you don't have that down payment, then that someone else probably got from
or credit worthiness,
right? Then you're not, so having mixed use or mixed, multifamily homes, all of those things, and how to support and get involved and, highlight some of the great people doing amazing stuff. Detroit People's Food Co-op. I'm so like, that is like how development can be done, how it should be done for the people, by the people, like amazing stuff, and lifting those stories up. I think it's really important because you also have to know those good so that you have the energy to keep working.
Well, I think both of you are really, really good at that. Both of you are really good at acknowledging the challenges that we are facing, but also acknowledging the wins and proposing solutions. And so I want to talk about some of the solutions. I love how you guys framed it in the DFC report, solutions to some of these challenges. And I know that the report calls for the development of alternative measures of credit worthiness for prospective buyers, appraisal reforms, and efforts to build up our inventory here in the city. Anika, say more about the solutions that are being proposed. Yeah,
and alternative financing tools, right? Yeah. And thinking about financing that includes both not only a mortgage, but also money for home repair, because that increases the value.
Thank you for naming that.
Yeah, yes. Home repair is real, right?
We're in crisis level here in the city.
And I think what people are missing about that is that investing in home repair, which we talk about in the report, increases the value of the neighborhood itself. So when you don't put money in for home repair, you're limiting that value.
Yes.
And
I hope the keepers of the systems hear that. The government hears this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And nonprofit lenders. Yeah. Right? We highlighted a couple in the report, but that has to be key. And, it was interesting when I talked about the report at the Fed board today, someone from Chicago said, oh, well, maybe we could think about more CDFIs here in Detroit. I was like, do you know how many CDFIs we have here in Detroit? Mm-hmm. But if they're not funded or supported to do this kind of financing, then then we don't have the kind of CDFIs that Chicago has. Mm-hmm. And so but it is this kind of nonprofit financing that can get you to that conventional mortgage that works. The model works. We need to get people there.
Yeah. You also talked in your Bridge Detroit interview, shout out to our new associate editor, Christine Ferretti, about bad appraisals and how it will go a long way if we can have, appraisers with, just a level of cultural intelligence.
I mean, that's something we've always that's something people think tour and you think, okay, double-decker bus. But this is a type of thing where if appraisers, both heard all of that history, understood the neighborhoods, knew anything about the city and the neighborhoods they were appraising, I mean, that is a huge barrier historically.
Well, and only 2% of appraisers in the United States are African American.
That is startling.
So, I mean, appraisers need to be, they don't just need to be, people of color and representative. They also, Jeanette, as you said, need to understand the place where they are. So I don't want an appraiser from Rochester. My house is for sale right now. Mm-hmm. I don't want an appraiser from Rochester Hills to come in and appraise my home.
Where do you grocery shop?
So what's the
Rivertown Market?
What's the edge? Right, the new Rivertown. Anika and I are in the same neighborhood. We're all there. What's the educational pipeline to become an appraiser? Like who said? I never heard anybody growing up say, I want to be an appraiser.
Yeah, it's a part of the housing system, right? Yeah. It should be. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know how you become an appraiser. I don't have the answer.
That's a great article. Let's get on that.
We'll get on that. We'll explore that. Okay.
I mean, is it through, you have to be a banker, which that, again, the whole system is, the foundation is real estate. I mean, even after like restrictive covenants were outlawed based on a case, that from Detroit in 1948, I mean, they were not enforceable, right? Then the real estate or association literally had real estate agents sign things that said, I will not introduce somebody who doesn't look like everybody else to this neighborhood.
Right.
And even if you wanted to, you could lose your real estate license if you wanted to, if you tried to integrate or do something, break the rules there, right? I mean, and if that's where appraisers are coming from, right, or obviously in that family, it's absolutely root. Not surprising. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so with 5 minutes left, I want to allow you both an opportunity to just have some parting words to our listeners. I think this has been an amazing and fantastic discussion, and I want to just allow both of you time to just put a button. And we'll start with one of the greatest, Anika.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will say I am so excited about my friend Jeanette and this new opportunity, and I can't wait to see what comes of that. The City Institute, I feel like, is going to, just like the Detroit Experience Factory, this is so important. It's critical to what we're doing. But I want to go back to something you said, because I want that, my poor staff at DFC, I feel like I drag them along on all of my harebrained ideas. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I really feel like what you described as, your conversation with Keith Williams of redlining and overlaying red line maps with maps of disinvestment and maps of environmental contamination and blight. I believe in my heart, and I haven't done anything about it yet, but I want this to be the next DFC thing, that this whole idea of a reparations and a reparative approach is so much bigger than that, where these policies have isolated Detroiters into poverty pockets for generations.
Absolutely.
And not just poverty pockets where they are living in neighborhoods that are essentially at one time valueless, but then they're also contaminated by water, by blight, and air.
Yep, food segregation, all of these things.
What have we done, right? Ooh. What have we done? And that, it has to be accounted for.
I like being in the room where Anika Goss ideates. Thank you. That's powerful, Jeanette.
The dots are connected, right? I mean, that's, context, my team will always be like, God, context. Like, you talk about context. All that. But for me, it's the most important thing. Nothing is in a silo. Like, whether it's sustainability, well, what does that look like? And how does that connect to these, to the banking system, to it's all connected. And that's what the City Institute's really about, is connecting those dots, providing the context, making sure that these voices like Anika and her team and the amazing work they're doing in Detroit Future City, are heard by even more people, and get a chance to actually talk with people and ask questions and understand and be engaged, right? It's about civic engagement. And also, as we talk about these people, especially that are struggling in these pockets that you're talking about, lots of them also are, have joy in their life, right?
Absolutely.
It's not, that's that not mutually exclusive part. That's, that Black joy and inspiration is Detroit, right?
Absolutely.
And so lifting up those stories and also showing, because we will love working with students, right? We're doing these tours and stuff for students because you can learn about anything in Detroit. And this is my thing. I mentioned the education, which is obviously a challenge, but we're not just in Detroit. But even if we could snap our fingers and everybody succeeds and as everyone's valedictorian in a magic world, if success still means leaving, then that also doesn't help this city in the future either.
Absolutely.
There's
so-
a large segment of the city that still believes that. we
And
have
because
to-
they all they've
because
ever
of the
heard,
conditions.
yes, they both
Yes.
experience,
And
obviously
right.
experience and hear, and then that's additional add-on of like hearing it all the time, that Detroit, all the challenges, but showing them sometimes, again, it's not gonna change everybody or whatever, but if somebody says, okay, maybe I'm gonna get involved with this now, or I want to stay, or there's some hope, right? You got to have that hope and that little bit of joy. And I think that's a big part of what we do, is both the whole big perspective.
Jeanette Pierce from the City Institute, thank you so much for joining us on Authentically Detroit. The official launch is April 21st, 2022. Go to thecityinstitute.com to learn more. And, of course, we want to thank our good friend, old Authentically Detroit pro, Anika Goss, for joining us. The Buying In Opportunities for Increasing Homeownership in Detroit through Mortgage Lending Report is available at DetroitFutureCity.com. You have to check it out. I had Jay Henderson on the east side and Riverbend talking about DFC and their reports.
What?
And so if you got Mr. Henderson talking, then it's some good stuff. All right,
Thank
y'all.
you.
It is time for, guess what? Shout outs. Any shout outs before we get up?
I guess I got to shout out to my triplets. Hey, kids. And my husband, who is with the kids right now, so I can do that and makes everything possible. Takes a village. My mom, who stays with us a lot, to help with the kids as well. We say it takes a village. We have a city, so we call them the city triplets. So shout out to Detroit and Detroiters, because this couldn't do it without you.
Cool. Anika, shout outs?
Yeah, I am just one person. They put me out here, but the DFC staff is where all of the brains actually are. So the whole team, and we're growing. We have so many people now. They're just amazing to work with. And my parents, Tom and Carol, on the east side. They're super fun. Every third person in Detroit is a Goss, so I'm not going to try to name all the family.
Your mom's it's an
identifier too, a Detroiter identifier. What's your last name? And we're gonna figure out if we know the family.
Right.
And we know the Gosses.
Yeah,
we definitely know the Gosses. I want to shout out WDET for the jumpstart of what I think will be an amazing partnership, and our producer this evening, Conor Anderson. Want to shout out Donna Givens Davison. We love you. We miss you. Come back when you're ready. And we're growing at Bridge Detroit. So Christine Ferretti has joined our team as an associate editor, and Malachi Barrett wrote his first story for Bridge Detroit today around the fund for minority-based contractors here in the city to give them access to capital so that they compete in this budding market here in the city of Detroit. But if you have topics that you want discussed on our podcast, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. We thank you so much for listening, and we want you to catch the wave.